John. I sold I-bonds in 2023, and I had to find the tax form. They don't send it to you. So in this episode, we're going to go over how to find the 1099 INT on the I-bond site. Hi, I'm Bridget Sullivan-Mermel. I've got a family financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Shearer. I've got a family financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. Before we dig into Treasury Direct and how to find that 1099, I want to remind all our viewers to hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 views, 1,000 subscribers here, and that'll really help us. Right. So I'm looking forward to hearing about how to find, usually when you have a transaction that's taxable, the company sends you a 1099. All you got to do is collect the thing and give it to your tax preparer, but not so much when you're talking about selling I-bonds, right?
Yeah, not sure why. Maybe they're trying to give you the interest and not have any administrative costs, and we could explain the whole I-bond site that way, maybe, because it's very bare bones and hasn't been updated in quite a while, but does seem secure. Okay, so step one is log in. That might be the hardest part, okay?
I'm laughing. I mean, it sounds so silly, but and those of you that have bought I-bonds and been on the website, that is not necessarily an easy thing.
I don't want to oversell it, but you have to log in. So that means you got to find your username, you got to find your passwords, and they ask for a one-time passcode. And I sold some I-bonds, and my husband sold some I-bonds too. And like a lot of people, I log out as him. So he had to get his one-time password too, which actually goes to his email account. So then he had to text it to me. So that's the situation you have. You have to find it. You have to log in, and so you have to get on the site. So that was step one. Again, probably the hardest part. Step two, I got on the site and it said, "You've got a message." I was like, okay, that'll probably help, right?
Yeah,
so I went to the investor inbox and clicked on the tax statement notification, okay? And the investor inbox, you can see it, it's in, there's a menu at the top, and you can see where the investor inbox is. So I went over there, I clicked on the tax statement notification. Now, that, I gotta admit, was a little disappointing, because all that said, but it did give me an idea about where to find it. But it didn't just link to the thing directly, which I thought it should.
So wait a minute. So the email, and I've not sold I-bonds. Maybe I'm not going to sell them after hearing this, but thanks for walking us through this here. So you log in and it's got the message that says, hey, you've got tax information, but the tax information actually isn't there.
It just says you have to get it somewhere else, but it tells you kind of where to get it. Okay, so it says, and if you really have a problem, here's a video. Okay, so then what it says is you must go to Manage Direct, the Manage Direct tab. So that's a different tab than the Investor Inbox, is the Manage Direct tab on the top tabs. And it is trademarked. It's a registered trademark. Manage Direct.
Right?
Don't rip that off,
right?
John.
I will be sure to keep that one off my website.
No, they'll come after you. Who knows? Anyway, so you go to Manage Direct, and then actually the situation gets easier. So once you so you could skip looking at your notice and everything if you want. So you go to Manage Direct, and then the thing is, it's a little, it's not the most elegant. It's not the most elegant interface. So you go to the Manage Direct, and it's on it lists all the things that you can manage with your I-bonds, and it's on the bottom left, and it says Manage My Taxes, and then there is a hyperlink to your 2023. And I clicked that hyperlink, and that's where I got it. So there wasn't anything more after I found that. So if I did this again, I would just go to Manage. I'd forget about hey, you got a message at the beginning. I'd just go to Manage Direct and look bottom left, and then click that bad boy, and that's how I got it. And then made a PDF of it, which I'll either print out or upload to all my different tax documents.
So some hoops to jump through as you get into it. It's not really self-evident exactly where to go with that, and that Manage Direct is sort of the key to the whole process, it
Correct.
Sounds like, getting onto that. And one of the big takeaways that I hear from this is just really interesting. We joked about it before, but usually we'll get a notice from Schwab or Fidelity, or you get your W-2 in the mail, or and it's available. And this is one of those that we need to remember as taxpayers. if we sold some I bonds
Right.
last year, and we've got some previous episodes that talk about why you might want to sell, at least consider selling I bonds. If you sold those, you have to pay taxes on those gains, right? But it's not self-evident. They don't send you a 1099 form or a tax form that'll tell you what to do and where to put it, right?
Absolutely. And there's an option with I bonds, I believe, that if you wanted to pay tax on them every year instead of when you sell them, that you can. But you have to figure it out every year for yourself, which
That doesn't seem to me,
it seems like a lot.
when you can
Yeah.
avoid paying the taxes until you cash out. I'm not sure why somebody would want
Why
to
you'd
do
wanna
that.
do that,
Maybe
yeah.
if a viewer's got an idea, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are,
Yeah,
why
'cause-
it might make sense for you, or what your thoughts are on paying taxes on an annual basis. That
Yeah.
certainly wouldn't be my first choice.
Yeah, and to me, it seems like one of the major advantages, one of the reasons to buy I bonds is that you don't have to pay tax until you cash them out. The other thing is that it was a decent amount.
Yeah,
It was a good
yeah,
investment.
Yeah.
I would say it was good. But that means that if I didn't do this step and I just decided not to put this amount on my tax return, I would inevitably get a nastygram from the IRS. And you know what happens when you get a nastygram? Your blood pressure goes up.
I was just going to say, yep.
You get stressed out. You get in fight or flight mode. And that's me. And I get,
And
I
right.
get things from, for some reason, the IRS can't seem to get my business address correct. And so they're constantly sending me letters about that again, blood pressure goes up. That says you changed your business address. I'm like, really? Okay.
Let's talk about the taxes. Once we get, it's
Okay.
one of these things interesting that you think normally we talk about, well, how do we manage the taxes and stuff?
Right.
We've just spent this time talking about how do you even get the information, right? Because it's not self-evident, doesn't show up necessarily on your statements, things like that. You get the check, you cash over, you get the deposit. Now you've got your 1099. Where does that go on the tax return, and what should we be expecting when it comes to paying taxes
It's
on
kind of
that?
interesting, this one, because it goes on your Schedule B, which is the interest
Okay.
income, but it's not subject to state tax.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois is not going to tax it. So Illinois' tax is 4%. So I can say that's nice. I save a bit on paying tax on the interest to Illinois. So that means I got to put it in my software correctly.
Yeah.
And double check, okay, did this get subtracted out in my state return?
Yeah,
So,
great point.
And I believe, I'm not going to guarantee that all states don't tax it, but
That's my understanding.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So interesting as we talk about, first of all, we got to figure out how to get the gall darn thing, right? And then get it to your tax preparer. If you do
Yeah.
your own taxes, make sure it goes in the right spots. And so some of the key things to think about, like how do we know if this gets done right? And this is one of the things when it comes to taxes, we see people all the time that, it's our responsibility as the taxpayer, right?
Right.
Not the person that does my tax return, but my job as the payer to know, to say that it's right. So we're looking on Schedule B for the div or the interest, right? Schedule B is the
Yeah.
place where we'll see interest from my bank account, right? If I have CDs,
Right.
if I've got a Schwab account or
That
a
has
Fidelity
interest,
account, right?
right.
It's got interest paid out,
Right.
so we'll see maybe 3 or 4 or 5 line items
Right.
on there. And what we're looking for on that when you look at your tax return is
U.S. Treasury
is
Direct.
U.S.
or-
Treasury
yeah.
Direct, right? Is it reported on that form, right? Does it show up? I made a couple $1,000 in interest, maybe,
Right.
depending on how much you cashed out and things. And then that's included in federal income, right? I want to make sure that I'm paying my fair share of tax in that, or else the IRS will come back with a nice love letter to me, right? But then on the state return, you've got to then take a look at the state return and go, listen, my income was this on the federal. I expect on the state side for it to be
There should be some
that much
subtraction.
less.
Yeah, there
right?
should be some subtraction, and generally it's in one line. Yeah.
Right, and you expect that the tax software, if you do it yourself, or the tax preparers have those things, and usually the answer is yes. But and you've been
if
on the
you're doing
tax
it
side.
yourself, you have to take a look at that.
Yeah.
Like we want to be mindful when you're putting it in,
Right.
Because it's not a no-brainer. You have to click an extra box or two to get it to be
to make sure that
to
it
make
goes in
sure
the right
that it
spot.
and to make sure it's taken off the right state.
And I'll say from what I've seen from a professional tax preparer, I mean, you've been on that side of things, right? Doing hundreds and hundreds of returns. I mean, hey, those folks are really good, but if they forget to click the box, I mean, again, it's up to you to make sure that you're, number one, paying the right amount of tax on the federal side, but number two, that you're not overpaying on the state side of things by being smart about that and being proactive.
The other thing is that what if you want I forgot, I already filed my tax return return. I didn't put it on
I didn't
there.
think about it.
Yeah.
It didn't show up in my form. I mean, great. What do you do then?
Well, first, if you filed it with your tax preparer, you can ask them to put it on for you. Okay? And then, if you forgot and it's before April 15th, you're going to need to look into this to see, okay, can I just file an amended return to just add it? Because that's ultimately what you're going to need to do. But I don't know if it's in this point before April 15th, if there's another option right there. And if you've got a question on it, I'll look it up if you put it in questions. Yeah. If anybody has gone down this path. But after April 15th, you just file an amended return and put it on there and then pay the tax. And that's a 1040X.
Yeah, right. So I think that's a great place to wrap things up, talking about I-bonds, paying the taxes, and reaping some of the benefits of the things we've been talking about for the last couple of years. With that, I'm John Shearer, and I own a fee and leaf financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin.
And I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel. I've got a fee and leaf financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois. We're both proud members of the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners. You can check that out at acplanners.org. We're fee-only, tax-focused financial planners all over the country. John and I are both taking clients, but if you prefer somebody in your area, you can check out acplanners.org.
And don't forget, hit that subscribe button.